What was the best thing the quiet kid has said or done in class? The quiet, very smart kid in my science class 25 years ago. Never really said much. Got good grades. Tried to keep his head down so as not to get picked on for being the nerd. One day he corrected the teacher on some chemistry point. I don't even remember what it was. The teacher says, "Young man, I have forgotten more about chemistry than you currently know." Well, at least now we have identified the problem. Whatever the teacher said after that was lost in the uproar. That is a damned fine burn. And deserved. As a teacher, any teacher who responds to a correction with a put down sucks at their job. German exchange student in high school in the early 00s. He could speak English well enough but generally kept pretty quiet. Until one day our class somehow got on the topic of music and he went on a long and very articulate rant about how Avril Lavigne said she made punk music but was absolutely not punk. Smart kid. Smart boy. 7th grade. Germany. Kid moved from Russia to Germany and ended up in my class. He didn't speak German at all. Zero. That dude was huge for a kid in 7th grade, and the moment I saw him I thought ain't no way I'll peep with that guy. Ever. But kids are ruthless. You know. So it turns out he had a bad stutter and some kids decided to make fun of him. Being protected by the fact that he had no clue what they were saying. Of course he still got the basic gist of what was going on, and to my surprise, he just dealt with it. But that one time the teacher asked him something, and as he tried his utter best to answer, one kid started laughing out loud and I could feel something snap in the Russian kid. Now I expected to witness some quality Russian bitch slaps about to start flying towards that bully. But no. He ate it up. Excused himself and went to the bathroom. Cue 1 minute later and we hear him yelling at the top of his lungs. Another minute later he comes back to class. Sits down and just has this look on his face that says, "Aight. Continue." This guy was big enough to take that bully and throw him around like a 5-year-old throws around her Barbie dolls. Yet he decided to scream off his anger and frustration in the bathroom. I respected that a lot and decided to befriend him. Without a doubt one of the purest souls I've ever met in my entire life. In Germany we call this Ehrenmann. I'm happy that you decided not to leave him alone. He is really a strong person. I'm American and in my mind I pronounced Ehrenmann the same way a redneck says Iron Man. Ed was a quiet kid in my 8th grade class. One day in gym class, one of the older 9th graders person had also failed a year, so he was 2 years older than us, began to pick on Ed. This went on for a minute or so with thrash talk. And then progressed to shoving. Next thing we know, Ed jumps in the air, spins and places a beautiful hook kick to this guy's head. Turns out, Ed was a ninja. In reality, 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. Ed's popularity increased 100x that day and he never got picked on again. It was awesome. So basically Ed put them to be Ed. Nivus. There was this kid. Not really the quiet kid, but he was kinda nerdy and was generally viewed as being a straight kid. No trouble or anything. Always got good grades. Etc. I don't think I ever even heard him cuss. Not even say hell or damn. One day we were goofing around in rehearsal, we were in a play together at a time. And one of the other guys said something stupid like, "My dick is a half the ground." The other kid jumped in without missing a beat. Yeah. If you're laying face down. Caught everyone off guard. We told the first guy to just leave the room because he would never recover from that burn coming from that guy. There's a 50/50 chance that kid's brain was always spiraling out burns like that, and he just understood that with great power comes great responsibility. Oh, no doubt. He kinda started to come out of his shell a little more after that. Showing his true self. Dude was full of surprises. He overheard another kid talking about being in MMA. So he challenged him to a quick spark. The other kid outweighed him by at least 100 pounds. He was a small kid. Made him look stupid. Big guy tried to hip toss him several times. But he stopped him every time. The last time he rolled off the dude and hip tossed him like nothing. It was awesome. Kid went from super straight, nerdy kid, to secret badass. In middle school there was a kid with autism. Super quiet and almost never made a noise beyond a whisper. But super sweet kid if you got to know him. Anyway, we never realized until 7th grade that this boy had the strength of a peeping titan. Field day. 7th grade. All the boys decide to do an arm wrestling contest. The biggest boys were obviously at the top. The quiet kid was off playing one of the games with some girls. He comes back. Sees what we're doing. Sits down and just rips through everyone. Just peeping bam. 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 All the way to the top. He was giggling the entire time too. Obviously we were all amazed and so we wanted to see just how strong he is. So we went to do the tug of war. When I tell you he yoinked all of us, I am not joking. We realized that day whose balls had dropped the furthest over the summer. Oh. Did I mention that? According to what he whispered to me, he had never worked out outside of P. Sometimes people with autism can have surprisingly good motor skills and strength. My motor skills are speep. But apparently I am much stronger than people expect, oftentimes including myself, for better or for worse. I wish I knew more about the cause of what my brother lovingly calls my retard strength. Can't deny it's a real thing. Though. At least for me. We had a deaf colleague. She was literally the quiet one because she was always focused on reading the lips. One day, the teacher asked without looking to us if she could erase the board. Nobody said no and, of course, our colleague didn't hear. Teacher notes went gone in a second and our colleague, who was still copying the content and didn't have much control of her voice volume, murmurs loud and clear to everyone. Son of a bitch. If you're in the US, the school is supposed to provide a note-taker for deaf students. It's virtually impossible to watch an interpreter and or read the teacher's lips and take notes at the same time. I was a note-taker in college for the deaf students. I did that for 3 classes and it was great. I got paid to do what I was already doing anyway. Will you shut the peep up, Brandon? Or is that too hard for you? Had a very cocky kid in one of my high school English classes who thought he knew more than the teacher. He would constantly make it hard for her to interact with the other students. Seemed to get off on challenging anything she had to say. And prevented other students from offering input of their own. I could be wrong. But I always had the impression that this teacher was still relatively new because she looked like a deer caught in headlights whenever this kid acted like a jackass. One day, he was giving her a particularly hard time. And it caused a typically very quiet girl who always sat in the back to snap that day. Brandon didn't say another word. The teacher scolded the girl for saying peep. And that was that. She did what the rest of us wanted to. But never had the guts to actually go through with. Good for her. And I hope it made Brandon think twice about terrorizing innocent teachers just trying to make a living by teaching some bratty ass kids. Will you shut up, man? One guy never really interacted with people. He participated in class and got great grades but didn't really click with anyone. This was my first year of HS. We were eating lunch in the cafeteria and some people started yelling for help. That guy was sitting next to me one second, jumping over 3 tables the next. He grabbed a girl from behind and performed the Heimlich maneuver on her and dislodged some food from her throat. 400 students became really silent. The girl started coughing and the teachers arrived and we all heard her say I'm okay and everyone cheered. Guy just walked back to the table and ate the rest of his lunch and tried to go on with a normal day. Best part was he didn't want to be thanked. He just wanted to be left alone and we understood. I did the Heimlich on a woman in a steak restaurant once and when I finished the woman and her friend were grateful but I felt weird as I was afraid I might have broke a rib. I went back to my table and really didn't want any attention. Strange part was when she started choking. The waitresses all disappeared. You would think that with the product they sold they all would have been trained on this procedure. They were probably trained to avoid liability. Horrible as it sounds.